Let me start with this first one. Here is here's a statement from AIPAC. Breaking: Hamas fires rockets at Jerusalem. Now I'm not entirely sure. They don't put dates on these. That's part of the maliciousness of what they do. But this is April. Let's see if we can find a more recent one. Let's start here. At least the news article has a date on it because dates matter. Hamas said to recruit 30,000 Gaza youth into its military wing. Everybody reading that headline with me? This is from what website is this? The Times of Israel. Hamas said to recruit 30,000 Gazan youth into its military wing. Saudi report says most recruits lack real training beyond rocket launching, guerrilla tactics. At least 25 reported killed in IDF strikes across the Strip on Sunday. I want us to sit with this headline for a second. And then I want to ask you a question. That's not the one I want. Where's the good one? There it is. As Gazans, people from Gaza's Palestinians are starving to death as they are mass displaced, living under the sky, no shelter. As Gaza is the most surveilled place on the face of the planet. Tell me, how are they recruiting anybody? Please explain. Who are they recruiting when Gazan youth are taking the brunt of what the Zionists are doing there? There's a couple questions you have to ask here. So number one, when there is a famine, a forced famine occurring, which one of these youth have the time or the energy to go and be recruited in Hamas? Somebody's gotten already. Brielle W says the media is gaslighting. Rich P1K said, given the numbers I've been hearing in terms of health problems, this headline doesn't make sense at all. Says no one has the time. That's number one. I'm just saying, health-wise, how? Number two, as Gaza is the most surveilled, they have complete satellite coverage. They have complete drone coverage, 24-hour drone surveillance. They have seismic detectors. In the caves, in the tunnels, they have what's called MUON, M-U-O-N, tomography. They are mapping, or they have, it's complete. They've mapped all of the possible tunnels in Gaza with cosmic technology. The entrances are all surveilled. There's real-time tracking. Someone tell me, not only who is Hamas recruiting from when they're all starving, and then two, where are they recruiting them to? How are they gathering? Where are they gathering where Israel doesn't see them? And I like the little thing they said here, Saudi reports. First of all, why am I going to believe Saudi Arabia? But that's a whole different question. Says, most recruits lack real training beyond rocket launching. Please tell me somebody. I'm about to lose my damn mind. Where they're getting rockets to train on? In the open air. Think it's got rockets laying around as they're traveling from place to place trying to find food? I'm not trying to yell at y'all. Please forgive me. Forgive me for yelling. But somebody help me Help me here. So they're starving, but they're being recruited. They're under 24-hour surveillance from drones, satellite, seismic detectors, but they're being recruited in public. Like, oh, you're going to tell me they're in the tunnels. The tunnels have been mapped with cosmic technology. Muon tomography. Not to mention the ones that were flooded under Project Atlantis. Not to mention the ones that were carpet bombed out of existence. And not to mention that every entrance to every tunnel is monitored. And then you're going to tell me they're trained on firing rockets. Where did they get the training? I need y'all help. I need your help. I have something for us to collectively do. When I say I need your help, I don't need your help with understanding the problem, because I've studied this motherfucker really well. Excuse me, Lord. Forgive me, Jesus. I've studied this, and I've studied it to the point where we got to do something about it. But it makes no sense. That's just one headline. Let's go to the next headline. I need to get back. I need to meditate tonight. Tonight, I'm going to meditate, because the absurdity of it all, the unmitigated gall. Here's another one from I-24 News. IDF releases footage of Hamas terrorists feasting in Gaza tunnels. Have y'all seen that video? I saw it. I saw it on Twitter. Please tell me, when everything has been destroyed, there are no markets, there are no groceries, there are no gardens, there is no fresh food when it comes to aid, but let's pretend it was in the aid packages. Every single aid package is tracked by GPS in real time. It is a requirement that Israel placed for every aid package to be tracked in real time. Not to mention the fact that the tunnels have been mapped with cosmic technology. They have been flooded with Project Atlantis, and they have been surveilled, or they're still surveilled. Please tell me, how do they get fresh fruit? How did they get fresh fruit in the tunnels? Somebody, can you tell me how they got fresh fruit in the tunnels? Furthermore, how did they get this video? Did someone from Hamas take it to them and say, here's a video? Or rather, did someone who's a plant, maybe it was an operative, say, hey, I got hold of this video. They took this video. That means you know where they are. Why didn't you strike them? Let's keep going. Oh, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. Middle East latest. This was back February 8th, 2025, in a city called Deir al-Balah. Middle East latest. Israel and Hamas conduct fifth exchange of hostages and prisoners in ceasefire. Now, this is 2025, mind you. Mind you, in 2025, and really quite honestly, since 2024, they have been reduced. Everyone in Gaza has been reduced to just enough food to not die. And now that amount of food has been taken away, and people are dying from starvation, of forced famine. I want you to look at these pictures. Somebody look at these pictures and tell me. Let me zoom in so there's no ambiguity. You see how hungry? Look at this hostage in the middle. You see how skinny and frail he is? That's as far as I can zoom in. Tell me what's interesting about Hamas in these photos. I want you to just take really, and Nick, if you could help me with the comments, if you see any comments that jump out, if you would put them on the screen so I can just focus. I don't want to miss good comments. But what's strange to you all about these photos? This is from the Associated Press. Look at the hostage. Now, mind you, what they're going to say is Hamas has been stealing all of the packages. Okay, they're GPS tracked. That means you know where Hamas is. Why haven't you killed them? But there's a whole lot more wrong in this picture. Look at all these pictures. Look at how clean their uniforms are. Does anybody notice how pristine their uniforms are? How clean their weapons are? Does this battalion, these are the Zionists who are well, let me be nice. They may not all be Zionists. They might, well, anyway, I'm gonna get out of that conversation. That's not what we're here for. Look at all of these people. Look at this battalion, not a battalion. Look at this unit. Every uniform is clean. The boots would be polished if they weren't walking in dirt. Tell me something. When this entirety of the supply chain has been cut off into Gaza, how did they get new weapons? How did they get ammunition for these weapons? Come on. Are you following me? How is it that this amount, I know it's a prisoner exchange. They're gonna be like, oh, they made a deal, and so Israel agreed not to kill them while they made this presentation, and then but then there's still hostages that are missing, right? So how does this many members of Hamas gather in public and that 24-hour surveillance doesn't track them down? Somebody said, Iran, how does Iran get it in when all movements across the border are tracked by satellite, by drones, and by GPS trackers? GPS tracking. Where do they get clean uniforms from? No, let me go to the real one. How did Mossad and the IDF, for that matter, not follow every single one of these people home? Oh. So Life says sarcasm. I'm sorry. I am going to admit I am absolutely triggered today. So I'm not picking up on the sarcasm. Somebody said, Greg said, I get way dirtier from mowing the freaking lawn. These are people, folks, this is in February. So this is at the height of conflict. This is after a year and a half of conflict. This is after, 20,000 Hamas members have been confirmed killed. And matter of fact, you got to remember back in March of 2024, when Hamas was being captured in March of 2024, they were unarmed, scavenging for food and water, malnourished, with organ failure because they had been so starved because of all of the border crossings and markets and food. Everything had been destroyed. But here they are in February 2025 looking healthy. Look at them. I mean, they're healthy. And look at all the people around. Like nobody's nervous. Nobody's nervous. They're not, it's not as though, and then my favorite thing is, considering all of the journalists who have been killed in Palestine. My favorite thing is, I think I missed it, is the picture where all the media is surrounding them. Let me see if I can zoom out and find that one. I think there's another set of photos where all the media is surrounding them. Are you seeing? Can somebody answer me how any of this is actually true? How any of these headlines are actually real? Hamas fires rockets at Jerusalem. Where do they get the rockets from when the borders have been seized? When the supply chains have been seized? When there's no fuel that could get into Palestine, into Gaza? And it's not like these rockets are like, little fireworks. You're going to just shoot them and nobody notices them. You got to actually set up rockets. I should have get next time I do this, I'll bring in a photo of the size of these rockets. Where are they setting it up when you have a complete dragnet over the city, over the strip? There's not an inch of Gaza that Israel doesn't have complete and control, total dominance over by air, and if they want, by land. But right now they're saying, oh, we only have 80% of the land. Folks, it's simply impossible for Hamas to continue to exist in such a fashion that they, and quite honestly, in any fashion, that, that's my theory, and that's the theory that I've been working on and hammering out with evidence and the logic chain that's necessary to demonstrate it. And we can demonstrate it. But they certainly don't exist in a fashion that gives them the ability. Let's move this one. I want to show this one. Where's that? I thought I had a tweet from Dan. I'm looking for the tweet from Dan Goldman. And this is really what set me off. This is what put me in this place. Representative Dan Goldman. This is what made me start looking for it. On Friday, he tweeted this: Gaza is on the brink of mass starvation. Israel, the U.S., and the international community must collaborate to ensure a massive surge of humanitarian relief immediately. This war must end. And to be clear, Hamas could end it today if they wanted to. Israel has agreed to a ceasefire proposal. Hamas has rejected it. Release the hostages and end this travesty. And when I read this, it dawned on me. Not only is it impossible for Hamas to exist right now, considering all of the constraints placed on them by Israel, considering that there is a famine, and considering that they have been reduced to less than a can of beans worth of calories every day, all the way back to March of 2024. These are headlines that I've taken from the same sources. The reality of the condition, that there is no tunnel that is currently unmapped. They can see through all of the caves. They're looking at it with muon tomography. They're able to see inside of every cave, and the ones that they didn't flood, the ones that they didn't bomb, all of them have had power cut off to them. All of them have been caved. The entrances and the exits have been closed off. There's no breathable air. Where are they holding the hostages? It's when Dan Goldman tweeted this that I realized, oh, you devils are playing a really dirty game. You devils are playing a really dirty game. Because not only is it completely impossible for Hamas to currently exist as a physical threat to Israel, because where are the weapons coming from? You mean to tell me with the border being closed the way it is, where food can't even get in, you mean to tell me that there's somehow, some way rockets are getting in? Does that make sense? Is that plausible to anyone in the audience? It makes zero sense. It defies logic, and it is so improbable that when I lined it all up for artificial intelligence, let me pivot here. Thank you, Dan Goldman, for being the bastard that you are, because you've put me on the task. I mean, I bit my teeth into this Friday and I haven't let go. But it's clear. It's 100% clear that they're not just wagging the dog on us. What they're doing is they're running a shell game. They've created a phantom. They've reanimated the corpse of Hamas, and they're telling us that what's impossible is possible. That they recruited 30,000 new youth, when the youth that we see are emaciated and they have their bodies blown apart. Here's another layer of it before I go to the AI part, because I know leftists, we don't like AI. So let me delay that part a little longer. Do you think that there is a person in Palestine right now in the Gaza Strip down there by Rafah border crossing, right? Those people who are sleeping in the open air. Do you think that there is one person out there, one mother, forget, one father who is going to see someone setting up a goddamn rocket system and not turn them in? You mean to tell me that we are supposed to believe these unimaginably convoluted lies that fall apart as soon as you start asking the simplest of questions? Julius Dennis said, the ugly truth is, Pastor Ben, Israel created Hamas to fight the PLO in the 1980s, and the Israelis are funding Hamas in order to invade Gaza. And there's evidence of that. This is a historical record. The most recent evidence of this is the funding, upwards of $1 billion. It was an obscene amount of money from Qatar that passed through Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu personally ensured that it passed the rest of the way down to Hamas. So what Julius is saying is not conspiracy theory, it is historical record. So I started asking, and I know, see, I'm only going to hesitate on this one last time, and then y'all gonna have to fight me. Allies, comrades, leftists, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. You're going to have to fight me on this one. Because if we as Western civilization, and those of us who are, we're not consider ourselves the West, but we are tied in through our taxes, society, humanity. If society, humanity in the West has accepted, not Western civilization, but the West, has accepted Israel using artificial intelligence to automate their kill list, and not just automate their kill list, that would be bad enough. They didn't just automate the kill list. What are they using AI for? They automate the kill list. The drones go out unmanned, commanded by AI, and they kill using AI Palestinians. If we in the West, and those of us who are prisoners of the West, if we as humanity, society, directly or tacitly accept the use of artificial intelligence to do that, then y'all can't tell me we can't use AI to demonstrate and prove that Hamas has not existed since March 28th of 2024. Why that date? Because at that date, everything has set in permanently. What do I mean, everything? The lack of food. All the stockpiles of food had either run out or been bombed in the tunnels. There was no resupply of food. There was no food crossing the borders. There was no grocery store to go to. When they found Hamas fighters in March of 2024, they were emaciated, unarmed, scavenging for food and water, with organ failure because of starvation. Why March 28, 2024? Because by that point, it had already been clear that there was no resupply of weapons. The weapons had run out. The stockpiles had run out. Their access to the stockpiles had been sealed off. The tunnels had been sealed off. The tunnels had been flooded. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The electricity, the food, the fuel. There was no more fuel for rockets after March 28, 2024. How else do we know? All of the communications, all of the radio wave frequencies, transmissions had been cut off, jammed. They even bragged about it. They said the leader of Hamas can't connect with any members of Hamas. How do you have a fighting force without the ability to give commands?